On this week's live stream, don't be a noob. Mr. T and his co-op students show you the top 10 ways new scratchers mess up their projects. Plus, Mr. T shows you how to untangle the sticky coating that happens when clones attack clones. And look under the hood at an amazing Van Gogh-inspired scratch art project. All this and more coming right up on the Chromeworks live stream. Hello, Internet. I'm here in my lovely office at the RA Center in Ottawa, where we're broadcasting live again. So you can see I don't have my normal green screen set up. I'm normally over there in front of the green screen chatting with you while my producer David is pushing all the buttons. It's a new thing I started a few weeks ago, but David called in sick today. I was sick last week too. I actually broadcasted while I was feeling awful. So it looks like maybe I passed on my thing to him. Not COVID, we did the testing, but anyway, so things are a little bit in disarray today because I'm working without a net. And I don't have David here to help me. I bet David's out there in TV land somewhere watching this. So don't worry, David. All is forgiven. But anyway, things are going to be a little bit weird today, and I'm just going to do my best to push on through. So another great week at camp. We got all kinds of fun projects done with my kids. I had a group of 18 kids this week, and we made some really cool stuff. In a minute, I'm gonna show you a couple of games, or a game that one of my students made, and a little film project. I don't want to go too hard on all the camp stuff, but I will show you a few things. Our featured project this week really is inspired by my work with these students at camp. It's like every week I get a new group of kids, and I find I'm teaching the same things over and over again, mostly because new students always kind of make the same kind of problem, the same kind of mistakes when they're coding stuff in Scratch. Very, very simple stuff often, like just using the wrong code to move the characters around, which ends up making for really sluggish movement. And importing images with white backgrounds and not knowing how to get rid of them, and little things like that. Anyway, so I wanted to show you guys my new video. So as usual, I'm just going to unveil our video. It's not actually my video, by the way. It was made this week by Michael and Riley, two of my co-op students who have been doing a fantastic job here. I have 4 co-op students this summer who are helping me out with the kids as well as with video production duties. So these guys are doing a bang-up job. They're just doing fantastic work, and I'm very impressed. I just got a text message from my wife, and I'm worried that maybe I'm muted or something. No. Okay. That's fine. So there's nothing going on there. All right. So let's get moving here, I think. I'm going to start with a little show and tell of some of my favorite projects from camp this week. This first one was made by a student by the name of Oleksandr. Really, really lovely kid, and quite the backstory. He and his family are here as refugees from the Ukrainian war. So his family is in Ukraine. His dad is still back there, and much of his extended family is back there. And so he's here waiting things out in Canada. And the RA Center graciously has helped him get set up with camp here, and he has been loving camp. So he made a project which he initially pitched as Star Wars, but with cats. And I don't think that's what he ended up naming it. He called it Star Wars Hero Battle Simulator, and I thought it was a lovely little project. Let me show it to you right now. So it's got a great soundtrack. I think there it is. You can hear the soundtrack now, and yeah, you move the characters around, and it's a two-player game. So the right-hand player works with the arrow keys. I'm gonna save this into the chat, by the way, in case anyone wants to play along with us. Nope, I lost my chat connection. Yeah, it's asking me to sign in to get into the chat. That is weird. All right, well, if you guys look at the file description and the link, you will, underneath this file, you will find the the address for this project. Anyway, as I was saying, just one of the many things that's going wrong today. Yeah, so you move, the right character moves with the arrow keys and then attacks with the space bar. The right hand character uses WASD and attacks with the space key. And there we go. A nice little project by a really great kid. So congratulations, Oleksandr, on putting that together for me. Also, we've been doing video projects here. A young lad by the name of Noah, I think he's just going into grade 3, put together this video project. So it's mostly just about getting the kids in front of the green screen and getting them to do something cool. The editing's not professional. The acting is, typical of what an 8-year-old would be doing, but it's just this kid's first exposure to really cool multimedia stuff, and hopefully the beginning of a long career of making fun films. So let me show you Noah's project right now.
Where am I? Wait a minute, I must be in first row. Oh man, I hope there's no door. This is someone come and get me. I'm gonna see. Here it comes again. Stop. Oh my gosh.
So a fun little project by Noah. Anyway, we've been making all kinds of silly little videos like that and having a lot of fun at it. So it's just one of the many things I've been doing at summer camp. Well, I'm joined here by a couple of people in chat. Zoraez from England is here today. Welcome, Zoraez. He runs a website and Discord server called Ilmapedia that makes instructional videos for kids. So a colleague in this field, as you can say, and Zoraez is always welcome on this broadcast. And we're also joined by Eleanor's Portal, who I was communicating with, I think, on YouTube a little earlier this week. Hi to Eleanor. And I'm trying to remember what the communication was that we had, but we did chat a little bit on, I believe it was on YouTube, though it might have been on Scratch a little earlier, a couple of days ago. And I'm stumped about what it was that we talked about anyway. I'm also joined by Deck the Decoder in England. He's in our Discord right now. And I know that England has been getting a ton of super hot weather, just as we have here in Canada, but like historically hot weather in England. So I was just chatting with Deck about it on the stream a couple of minutes ago. And yeah, it's he just has a fan, no actual air conditioning in his home. So my thoughts go out to everyone in England who's struggling right now with the awful hot weather. I mean, it's great if you're going out swimming, but okay, guys. Yeah, so let's move on to the main event here. So one of the things I like to do on this live stream is roll out the videos that I'm going to be showing or that I'm going to be releasing later on in the week. So on Monday or Tuesday, I think we're going to be releasing the final version of our top 10 list, which I teased in the intro. And Michael and Riley did a great job putting it together this week. And it's still in a draft stage, so if you guys have any suggestions of things that we can change or things that might need some tweaking, I'd love to know it. But so here is the world premiere of our new top 10 list of tips for new scratchers. So let's get right on that, guys. Teaching coding to a different group of kids every week is a little bit like Groundhog Day. The faces are different, but the problems the kids are bringing me are frequently the same things over and over again. To help you new scratchers out there navigate some of the pitfalls of learning coding for the first time, I've asked my co-op students to compile a list of the top 10 most frequent noob errors made by new scratchers. Here it is.
Number 10, invisible sprites. Sometimes after your game ends and you try to restart it, you'll find your sprites are missing. This is because you're hiding them at the end of the game. Scratch won't remember that you wanted to put your sprite visible unless you put it in the code, so make sure that you put a show block under the green flag to fix the problem.
Number 9. Slow down there, buddy. When you add movement to your game, make sure that the values you put in aren't too big or else it will look messy and buggy. You can use smaller numbers and forever loops to make smoother movement. Here's 2 examples of how smaller movements will make your animations look a lot smoother. As you can see, the cat moves a lot faster than the dinosaur, but it looks worse. When the sprites spin, you can see that both sprites rotate exactly the same way, but the cat rotates by a bigger number. A circle is only 360 degrees, so if you try to make something spin faster than 360, it won't change anything.
Number 8, sound effect glitches in your game. The play sound until done block sounds like the right way to add sound effects to your video games, but this will often glitch out your movement. The reason for this is that this block pauses your code until the entire sound is finished playing. To fix this, use a start sound command instead of a play sound. But be careful. Sometimes, when you want to play a sound in a loop, you want your code to pause until the sound is done.
Number 7. Your variables are showing. When you create a new variable, you'll notice that there's a checkbox beside your variable name. This is where you can choose to show or hide variables. Make sure you only show the ones that you really need to, for example, score, lives, or timer. Trust us, nobody cares about the Y position of every enemy on your screen.
Number 6, missing sounds. When you import sounds into your game, sometimes when you start code, you'll notice that your sounds are missing. This is because you imported them onto the wrong sprite. Make sure you put the sounds where you want to code them. Every sprite has its own code, and the sound library and different sprites won't be able to use the resources. To move sounds, costumes, and even code between sprites, just drag and drop it into the sprite where you want it to go.
Number 5. The image editor is broken. When new scratchers try to import sprites from outside of Scratch, they're often frustrated to find that the image editor doesn't let you resize or move them. This is because you're in bitmap mode, where the options are a lot different from the default way of displaying graphics, vector mode. You're going to want to switch it to vector mode to be able to select your sprite and anything else you add. In vector mode, you can use this black arrow tool to select items so you can resize, move, or delete them.
Number 4, white backgrounds. Yuck! When you import backgrounds and sprites into Scratch, you'll often find there's a white background behind your image. To make your game look cleaner, try clicking on the paint bucket tool and telling it to fill the white part of the image with transparent pixels. For even better results, load your image into remove.bg and use the power of AI to remove your background. This website looks best with pictures of people though, so it might not work on sprites that aren't pictures of people.
Number 3. Move, don't glide. When you want to move your sprite in a video game, don't use glide blocks. To fix this problem, try simply changing the X and Y position of the sprite, or pointing your sprite in a direction and then using the move steps block. Scratch's collision detection system doesn't work very well with glide blocks, and your sprites will sometimes not see each other when they cross paths.
Number 2. Send the clones! When you want more than one kind of the same sprite in a game, a classic noob mistake is to duplicate the sprite. This gets really messy. Every time you make changes to your code, you need to modify every single sprite. What you can do is create a clone of your sprite using the Create a Clone of Myself block from the Control tab. After you make a clone, order it around the When I Start a Clone block. As you can see in this example, your project works the same either way, but a clone makes it a lot easier to tweak your project.
Number 1. Glitchy Movement. When new scratchers try to move a sprite across the screen, they almost always use one of these hat blocks to trigger its movement. Big mistake! Try using an if block inside of a forever loop and you'll see a huge improvement in the lag time it takes before your character starts moving.
Teaching coding to a different group of kids every week is a little bit like Groundhog Day. Muted? There we go, I'm muted. Yeah, Dex says that was a really cool video. I'm sorry that ended abruptly. As I said, I'm here without a producer this week, and I hit the wrong button. I was trying to get something set up for my next scene, and it I ended up cutting the film out. The software I'm using, Streamlabs, doesn't let you scrub ahead and get to the spot where we started the movie. We'd have to watch it all over again, which of course is not worth the trouble. So that full video will be released probably on Monday or Tuesday, as I said, and you can look forward to seeing that there. In the meantime, I wanted to talk to you guys about another noob mistake. Well, it's actually a little bit more of a sophisticated mistake that came up a couple of times at camp this week, and it's something that I thought was worth doing an independent little segment on. So I've created a project. I just sent you guys the link in the chat, and it's just demonstrating a common problem that arises when people start making sophisticated shooter games. So I've set up a shooter game here now with the cat shooting projectiles, and so the projectiles are clones, and the dog characters are clones as well. And the problem is that when I want my bullet to hit a dog, I want both the bullet and the dog to delete themselves. Otherwise, we get into all kinds of problems. So let me show you an example of what happens if we don't have the bullet delete itself, for example, we end up with this kind of situation where all four guys are getting deleted, right? When a bullet hits something, it's supposed to stop. And so in this example, you can see what's going to happen if you don't delete your bullet. But, so we want our dogs deleted and we want our bullets deleted. But what ends up happening, let me go right back into this. So what ends up happening when you have two if statements, one inside the projectile and one inside the target, is the bullet deletes itself before the dog gets a chance to tell whether it's been hit. This is a classic problem here. So we've got an if statement here that says if touching dot the dog, the bullet should delete itself. We've got another if statement here saying if touching the projectile, make a bark sound and delete yourself. Well, that is a real problem because Scratch, of course, handles things one at a time. So it's going through this list of things to do. It's checking to see, the projectile is checking to see, am I touching a dog? And it decides, yes, I'm touching a dog, and then deletes itself. And now it's the dog's turn to process the code. The dog says, am I touching a projectile? And the answer is no, because the projectile's been deleted. So that is why you get a scenario like this, where your bullet disappears, but it doesn't actually hit the target. And the most frequent complaint I get from students who are coding this is that the bullets don't work, or the bullets aren't giving me a score on my game. And so that's the source of that problem. And the answer to it, I've seen some very, very complex answers. Ben, one of my assistants at camp, was working up a very complex system this week that involves putting the IDs of all these characters onto a Scratch list and putting all the bullets into a list and then cross-referencing them, and it just seemed like a really, really complicated process. And the real answer just lies in one little block, and that block is a wait 0 seconds. So what's happening in the code here is I've got a couple of different scenarios set up here, and so the block on the right here is the one that actually has the proper code, and the one on the left is the exact same code except missing this wait 0 second block. So what's happening when we do wait 0 seconds? Now 0 seconds doesn't even seem like a valid amount of time that you can wait for, but it's an old Scratch hack that works really, really well. And what wait 0 seconds does is it pushes any action that follows it to the next frame of animation. So really we're just saying wait a fraction, the tiniest fraction of a second, and that gives the collision detection time to start working, so that when the bullet hits the dog, it deletes itself, but only after the dog has had a chance to delete the bullet as well. And so I coded this up as just an example of how that wait 0 second works. And so let me show that to you right here. So right now I've got it set without the delay. So this is a variation of the code that doesn't have the delay on it. And then as soon as I add the 0 second delay, you can see we lose one dog, and then another, and then another, and then another, and it just works beautifully. So there's an example of a really, really simple solution that solves all your problems. It's a bit of a hack, and no one would ever really explain this to you unless you were in a Scratch forum complaining about this problem. So this is the kind of stuff that I love helping kids with at camp. There's so many simple rookie errors that students are making where often there's a really, really simple solution, but but no one is around to tell them this, and so they suffer with imperfect projects that are buggy and maybe perhaps get frustrated with coding because of that. So this is one of the ways that the community can really help out, and being in a classroom working with other kids, sharing knowledge can really, really be helpful in Scratch. Scratch, as the makers of Scratch designed it very much with this idea of collaboration and helping each other out in mind. And so this is what we're trying to do in our camp as well, is get lots of helpers who have experience working with this stuff, teamed up with kids who are making these kind of rookie mistakes, and just correcting them, giving them some new techniques, some new tools for their tool belt. And wow, we start to see the quality of their projects improving dramatically. So so that's a really cool project. I've sent you guys a link, and you can find in the description down below if you want to have a look at this file. It's really, really very straightforward. And the only real takeaway from this is if you've got a problem where two clones are trying to detect each other, the simple solution is to add that 0-second delay to give an opportunity for the two guys to detect each other before you go ahead and start deleting stuff. So that is a nice little lesson. Moving along, I wanted to show you guys a little remix. I love it when students out in the world remix my projects. I made a little project called Realistic Smoke Effect with clones a couple of weeks ago, and I made that a tutorial. And this is a fantastic little project that surprised me with the quality of the smoke that you can get out of Scratch just by duplicating clones. And so I'm really happy to see students out there remixing this work. And a student from the Philippines by the name of Papa Marcos took my smoke effect and used it for a project called This Is How People Pollute the Earth. A really simple remix, but a good example of the stuff that you can really, really simply do just by remixing a project. You can suddenly make a brand new thing without having to know a lot of coding. So thanks, Papa, for having a look at my project. I love what you did there. All right, and so this is the last thing I wanted to show you today. We're going to do a shorter than normal stream. It doesn't look like very many people are watching anyway. So here is a project called Night Sky Scene. This was a featured project in, I'm going to get rid of the Scratch noob thing, because this definitely isn't a noob project anymore. Where is it? There it is. So this was a featured project in Scratch the other day, a few weeks ago, and it is really, really cool. So I'm going to show you the finished project in a second. I've kind of dismantled some pieces of it because I just want to show you how this was built. It's really a brilliant little piece of coding. So it's a parallax project. You can see the landscape here moves and shifts in a 3D manner where the stuff at the front moves faster than the stuff in the background, and that creates this illusion of 3 dimensions. So that's the start of it. Let's have a look inside the code here and see what else is happening. And so all of these sprites over on the side here are all invisible during the actual project. They all have a set go spec to 100 in them. I'm going to get over to the finished version of the project here to give you a look at how the actual project works. So these things are used as a reference. They're being moved around in the background to this parallax effect. And I have done a tutorial on parallax effect, by the way. I think that I should, it's time to update it and do a new one though. Anyway, and so what this code is doing is it is putting down a random little bit of pen in a random spot on the screen, and then depending on what the pen is touching, which of these objects, or the sky, or the white moon here, or the little stars, it is picking a different color based on what it's touching. and then it just goes and draws a little line with the Scratch pen tool. And what it's doing is it's turning the sprite to face my mouse pointer and then turning it to the right. And what that does is it ends up creating a kind of circular motion that spins around. So this project is basically drawing and drawing and drawing, and constantly redrawing this image one little line at a time, a little bit like a painting by Vincent van Gogh, these impressionist art, the famous impressionist artist who was famous for his Starry Night and a bunch of other very, very cool surrealistic kind of paintings. So I want to show you what this finally looks like. So we're drawing little things. Now when we run the project in its normal mode here, you'll see that it's pretty boring. We're waiting for this image to start drawing, and it takes a long time before you see anything worthwhile in it. So this is a project that was intended to be run in turbo mode. And so for those of you who are new to turbo mode is a mode in Scratch. Well, so the default mode in Scratch is you're limited to a certain frame rate. So this Scratch should only process stuff at a certain speed. I believe it's like 30 frames per second. I'm not 100% sure what that is. So it's basically drawing one of these or 30 of these every second. But that's a little bit too slow for the kind of effect that we're looking at here. So to unlock the full potential of this, you have to run Scratch in turbo mode, which unlocks the frame rate and basically lets you run this project as fast as your computer is capable of running it. So if you have a really good computer, this is going to look awesome. And if you've got a slow, kludgy old thing, this might not look as good. So there is a menu to get into turbo mode, but the easy way to do it is just to hold down the Shift key and hit the green flag. And so let's do that right now. And look at what we have here now. We've got this beautiful interactive art project that changes depending on where my mouse is moving on the screen. Is this not the most amazing thing you've ever seen? Chat, if anyone has any comments about this, I'd love to share them. Man, this looks super cool. And I could not believe how simple the coding was. This is amazing, says Deck in England, and I agree. This is one of the coolest Scratch art projects that I have ever seen, and really makes fantastic use of the tools inside Scratch. Anyway, I couldn't even have conceived of doing something like this. It's just so clever and so creative. So congratulations to the author, Hexescape, who has made a really, really brilliant project here. I want to have a look at Hexescape's project. He's from Ireland, apparently. And he says he's a human who makes random stuff. It looks like he's been making a bunch of interesting projects here. Let me show you his shared projects. And I haven't had a chance to look at any of them, but it looks like he's made a few other impressionist type art projects and some games. Yeah, he's really interested in procedurally generated art. I'm just gonna have a look at this Angry Birds menu, but well, that's fun. Anyway, I haven't had a chance to vet any other of Hexescape's projects, so I don't think I'll show you any more of that right now. But yeah, he's a really, really talented Scratcher. So I am going to send you a link to Hexescape's project right here in the chat, and anyone who's interested in playing around with it can certainly feel free to do that. There you go. And Gexescape. I said Gexescape in the file description. Okay, that was a typo, Deck. I will fix that, buddy. Anyway, so really, really lovely project. If you guys see something out there that you would love me to show on the stream, please send it to me. As always, I'm Mr. Tomek on Scratch. You can go to my profile page and leave me a message anytime. I try to respond to everyone who communicates with me here. And yeah, so please send me a message if you're interested in seeing something featured on the show. All right, guys, I think that I'm probably out of here for today. I don't have my producer, and I'm sure I'm just going to mess something up here again if I try to wing it today. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to releasing the finished tutorial this week. Again, our noob tutorial on how to on how to avoid some of the most common errors in Scratch. So looking forward to showing you guys that in its entirety next week. And otherwise, I'm working on a whole bunch of stuff where we have a new my assistant Ben is working on a fantastic new game that I'm very excited to show you. It uses it's basically a kind of collision detection game where you're trying to stop flying objects from getting to the center of the screen, but with some really cool bouncing effects. And we're doing a full tutorial on that in the next couple of weeks that I'm looking forward to showing you. And David, my producer, has just finished work on a tabletop game that's a variant of chess that's really fascinating. He and Deck were playing it this week, and I think this game has some really interesting potential. So we'll be bringing you an extended report on David's new chess game in a couple of weeks as well. So lots of fun and action coming up. We're just going to keep it casual on these streams for the summer. I don't think you're going to see super high production values here, but we're pouring most of our energy into making really, really good content that we can release as standalone projects. So we'll be releasing at least one project every week for the rest of the summer, so you guys can just sub to my channel if you're interested in seeing that. I am out of here for now, guys. So nice to chat with you all, and I'd love to see you soon. So